just a sleeve from a shirt. It's got a lighter in it, it's got a ferro rod, and it's got a pack of matches in it. And what this video is about is which one of these is the best one to use in that situation. You're cold, you know you've got about, X minutes where your hands are gonna work, and then depending on how cold it is, they're just gonna stop working and they're gonna get clumsier and clumsier by the minute, and you need to start a fire. Not only that, but hey, it's Greg here with Outdoors on the Cheap, and I thought I'd do a video today on a certain scenario. You're miles back in the woods, maybe you're 1 or 2 days from a road or a vehicle, or maybe even just like half a day's hike out. And you're crossing some, dodgy part of a creek or a river or something like that, and you fall in. Now, maybe you don't go right over your head, but you're in. You're soaked. Everything's soaked. Your pants are soaked, your jacket's soaked, everything's soaked. And it's cold. It's below zero. So you need a fire. I mean, if you're an exceptional human being with an exceptional constitution, maybe you can walk really fast, really hard, and make it out before your body gives up on you. Maybe. If you're young enough, tough enough, and there's people, some people are just really hard to kill. But maybe not. You don't want to find out the hard way that you're not that guy or that gal. So usually what you want to do is start as big a fire as you can, as fast as you can. And to do that, you need to be able to start a fire. So I'm not going to throw, this is a creek right here. I'm not going to throw myself in this creek. I work all week. I'm not throwing myself in no creek on the weekend. But I have thrown a little bag, a little fabric bag full of a bunch of different fire lighting implements into this creek. And it's been in here for a couple minutes. Right, so I got a little sack here. Right. Just a sleeve from a shirt. It's got a lighter in it, it's got a ferro rod, and it's got a pack of matches in it. And what this video is about is which one of these is the best one to use in that situation. You're cold, you've got about, X minutes where your hands are gonna work, and then, depending on how cold it is, they're just gonna stop working and they're gonna get clumsier and clumsier by the minute. And you need to start a fire. Not only that, but you're looking around frantically and you need to find something to light a fire with and all that sort of stuff. So let's first do that part of the film. You've fallen in, you've just gotten out. So all the stuff's, on my person, right? But everything's wet. So I just come out of the water. Oh my God, I need a fire. I need a fire right now. As soon as I can get it, I got to get these clothes off. I got to wring them. I got to get a fire big enough to keep me warm with no clothes on. And I got to get these clothes off and wring them out and get them propped up around the fire to dry them out. Right? So let's simulate that situation. All right, so I just come out of the water and I'm making a decision on which direction to walk in based on maybe past knowledge or just looking up at the trees and taking a guess as to where there's going to be some stuff I can use. Remember, you're just out for the day, you haven't got a whole lot of gear on you. You're kind of doing it barehanded. Now I can see some fallen trees around here and I can see a bit of material. So I think I got a spot right here that might work out. I think there might be enough dead trees and branches and stuff around here. Just looking around quickly, this might be all right. All right, so let me just set the camera up. All right, so now I found a situation, a location where I think I've got enough stuff to light a fire with. I haven't got ideal stuff here. I haven't got any birch bark or all the great stuff that people tend to point to when they're saying use this to start a fire, use that to start a fire. Also, I haven't got a lot of time, right? There's a lot of tricks you can use, getting into dead wood, whittling it down, making feather sticks and stuff like that. All that stuff goes out the window when you've got about 2 minutes of hands that work. All right, so let's look at our different fire making implements here and what situation they're in. Take them out of the bag here. Just going to have to trust me that this is all legitimate. Okay, why would I make any of this up? I'm not selling anything here. So let's start with the good old the ferro rod, right? So here we've got a ferro rod. right? It's been in the water for 5 minutes, and of course, like any good ferro rod, makes sparks no problem, right? That's great. But in this immediate vicinity right here, all I can see to light fires is this stuff here. It's a little bit of old man's beard and some tips from spruce trees that's, you know, probably black spruce. And it's damp because this time of year it rains almost every day or snows almost every day. And an old man's beard will take a spark, but it's very difficult to get it to take a spark when it's damp, right? There's tricks to getting it to go. If you can find, you know, a spruce tree, certain kinds that have blisters, you can get some of that blister, the liquid, the resin in the blister on the old man's beard, and you can get a spark onto that. It'll light when the old man's beard is, even when that old man's beard's a little bit dark. It'll get the old man's beard started and it'll work. And I see old man's beard here, and I actually do see a birch tree right there. And I suppose if I was, so basically what I'm trying to say is to light a fire with your ferro rod and your knife, coming out of cold water with very little time to work, a number of things have to go your way to have the right materials. Given that you've got so little time to frig around, right? A number of things have to go your way for you to have the right materials to turn a spark into a fire very quickly, right? Remember, your hands are failing. This, you know, it's easy to hold hold a knife to the ferro rod and make sparks. It's a much more delicate operation to aim those sparks at a little bit of fluff, right, in a way that you don't upset it, right? You can also use birch bark. You can scrape it out. I can do videos on that. There's plenty of videos on that you know, out there in cyberspace, right? But the ferro rod works no matter whether it's wet or not, so it's very reliable in that sense. But it's not, you know, you have to have the right materials handy. Turn that spark into a fire. Now, if you carry those things on your person, maybe you got some stuff, you know, in with it that'll take a spark really easily. Maybe some cotton balls with a little bit of Vaseline or something like that. There's lots of different tricks you can use, but if you've got some stuff like that within your kit, then you're ready to rock. Well, let's look at the other thing here. So the main knocks on the Bic lighter that people say you need a ferro rod because the Bic lighter is unreliable. One is that it has to be the lighter fluid in it has to be a certain temperature. It can't be cold or it won't work right. And it has to be dry or it won't make sparks and it won't work right. So in order for this to work, you know, it's just been in water that's around just slightly above freezing, right? You have to warm this thing up and you got to dry it out. And there's some tricks for that. There's one where you just tap it a whole bunch of times. Now remember, you just came out of the water and everything's, you know, your whole body's starting to shut down, and most importantly, your fingers are going to start to get really useless and really clumsy, right? Very soon. So maybe you don't have time to tap this 100 times. Another trick is running it against your pant leg or against your arm, right? Doing that over and over again, building up friction, building up heat to dry it out. But an even quicker way is number one, you put it in your mouth. As long as you're alive, you're going to have heat inside your head. You can put it on your armpits and different places like that, but I mean, that's going to be warm. I don't know, maybe a count of 10 like that, right? I can feel it. It feels warm in my hand now. The lighter is now warmer than my hand. Okay, now you got to get the water out of there. All you do is just blow on it like a flute. Sure, there's a bit of moisture in your air, but it's way drier than the creek this thing just came out of. And remember, this thing was just in a creek, so don't swallow. You don't know what's in that. Have a couple spits. But again, you're blowing across the top like that. You also want to have, before you even go in the woods, you want to have the childproof piece of metal removed from the lighter. Remove that thing right away. I mean, this is a survival tool. You're not a child, you're in the woods, you're in an adult situation, so remove that thing. But maybe you have to blow across that 2, 3, 4 times. You're blowing the air out, and you're getting most of the moisture out. There's still a little bit left. You know, the only moisture that's left is what you've provided with your breath. But if you flick it enough times, watch it make a lie on me now. I can just hold it in my hands for a minute and try to get it a little bit more heat in there. There, see? Flame. Okay, but again, lighting a Bic lighter is a very delicate operation. Just try teaching a child how to do it. My 2 kids are 10 and 12 years old. And, you know, this year I've been taking them out in the woods, and maybe once a week, and I say, okay, each of you are going to start a fire. When you can do it without me helping you at all, you know how to start a fire with a match, then you know how to start it with a Bic lighter, and you know how to start, you know, and the final graduation is starting the fire with a Ferro rod. We're still at the match right now. So the match, in so many ways, is the best way to light a fire, right? It's the easiest thing to do when your fingers are feeling clumsy. Not only that, but it's a chemical reaction. I mean, you're going to get heat, and the match is wood, it's tinder. But the problem with the matches is that if they're wet, they don't work, right? And the matches are still in this soggy thing. They've been in there this whole time. So I'm saving them last for a reason. So the catch with the matches is they have to be dry or they're useless. And if you've messed around with waterproof matches, they're not very good matches. You want the standard Eddy light match, you know, the one that'll light on a file, light off your tooth, light off your chest hair if you're a tough guy, you know, light off of anything, light off of anything rough, anything scratchy, okay? Well, the solution is you take the matchbox and you put it in a plastic bag, okay? And making sure it's very tightly sealed up. Now, I mean, it's not going to be, you know, waterproof to 100 feet, but you're not going down 100 feet. You're just going in for a quick dip. You know, you fall in the water when it's cold, you get out fast, right? So let's get her out of there. This is just a sandwich bag I got this thing in. And now look what I've got. In addition to the sandwich bag, I got it wrapped in wax paper, right? I got a little bit of rubber here, which is also, this is like inner tube rubber. Burns really good. Burns a candle-like sort of way of burning. Wax paper is a candle in all the ways that matter. Okay, so you got that nice thing. It's keeping your matches nice and dry, but it's also an ideal tinder for when you're in a tight situation and you've got stuff like this, and it's all you can find, and you don't have time to mess around and make feather sticks and split things open and scrape things, and you're just breaking branches, and you want a fire to go fast, right? So look at that, nice and dry, right? So this, it'll look like I got a little bit more in the package, extra tinder, right? And a little bit more. It also keeps them from making a noise if you were trying to be quiet in the woods for whatever reason, right? So here's my matches. They're nice and dry. You don't have to be, you know, you don't need a lot of dexterity to light a match, right? And if you got wax paper, right, it's going to catch. It's going to catch easy. Even if the wax paper is wet, it'll catch, just like birch bark. Okay, so I've just blown half my wax paper. But let's take some of this not so good fire lighting material and see if we can get a fire going with a little bit of wax paper I got. And what's readily available right here in this location. All right, so I've just come out of the water and I'm throwing things like a madman, fast as I can, collecting fire materials, trying to get fine stuff. But of course, you're panicked and you're shocked and you haven't got a lot of, you know, processing power. You're in a bad situation. and you're not going to feel like you're in control of a situation until you've got some sort of fire going. All right, so all this stuff came from a fallen tree adjacent to me. I get this stuff going and then I add more stuff to it, right? I'm not going to do that here because I got to go home, right? It's getting close to supper time. But just to give you the idea of the situation. So I'm going to take all this stuff, break off the small stuff, make a little floor because the ground's a little bit wet here. Now I'm going to break off all the small stuff here. Remember, you're in a rush. You're in a life and death situation, and your hands have only got so much time to work. This is a thing you should practice when you're not soaking, wringing wet, and possibly experiencing the last 15 minutes of your life. Okay, so we got a little bundle here, okay? This is what we got right here next to the river. This is what we got. This is what we got to work with. That and what we brought with us. That little bit of wax paper. And I suppose if we want to cheat, we can use, well, it's not really cheating because you use what you got. We can use those little pieces of rubber. Okay, so we got our dry matches, right, that are dry because of the way we set them up. And we're going to light this wax paper. And it's going to light. It's going to light good. Get that going. Put the piece of rubber in. Get this stuff over it. Remember, this stuff's wet. It's less than ideal for lighting a fire. This is the best shot you've got with the lighting materials. You got one shot here. A little piece here. I'm going to put this rubber right on top. Maybe it'll fall down in and ignite. Okay, it's like a moonshot. So we had just enough, and I can put this plastic on here too. Why not, right? So I had just enough stuff to create just enough heat to get this wet stuff, and it is wet. It's been wet, right? But to get it going, right? I got a nice warm fire here. I can start throwing, I can start throwing stuff on this quickly, right? I can start getting stuff on this now. Right? Right, and so on and so on and so forth, right? Keep adding, keep adding, keep adding, keep adding until you have to stand one stride away from the fire. But I got a fire now, I've got heat, I've got safety, I've got security, right? All because I brought a pack of matches and a little bit of wax paper, some elastic bands. Really, it was just the wax paper and the pack of matches, right? So I got less than ideal tinder and not a lot of time to figure around with my ferro rod. Not a lot of, I mean, the Bic lighter is a good one too, but man, like you saw, it didn't work perfectly. I had to play with it a little bit. Maybe you start losing the dexterity in your hands, and your hands start getting really clumsy before you can actually get the thing to light. Right? You don't think of it, if you use lighters all the time, you think of it as an easy thing to do. But it is a fairly tricky thing to do, because if you're teaching children, they learn the matches before they learn the lighter. They find the matches a lot easier, because they are, right? You just push and drag, or flick towards yourself, right? So matches, I always have in my kit matches, a lighter, and a ferro rod. Right? And depending on the situation, I've got all those different things. But if you think you're going to fall in a lake, fall through the ice, crawl out of the ice, and use your ferro rod to make a fire that's going to save your life, man, a lot of things better go your way. You better have the right stuff to take a spark when you're in that situation. My advice, get some good old-fashioned, these are what they call Redbird, but just good old-fashioned matches, the kind that'll strike anywhere matches. Wrap them up in some wax paper, wrap that up in a plastic bag, wrap that up in another plastic bag, right? And keep it on you. Ideally, keep them high, right? Because usually, when you fall in something, you might not get your chest. You're going to try to keep your chest out in that situation, right? So ideally, you can keep them high instead of that situation. But anyway, boy, this fire feels really nice. Anyway, just a couple observations from my experience. I've actually been in that situation where I've fallen in when it's cold and had to light a huge fire and get my clothes, you know, get my I usually have a thin layer underneath everything. I had to get that dry. Sure, you know, wool clothes will keep you warm when they're wet, but man, you fall through the water and you get completely soaked. You have to be in that situation to understand how important it is to know that you can make a big source of heat, get some heat going, and dry your stuff out and solve that problem. So thanks for coming out with me today, and you know, thinking about these things and the different means of starting fires and their relative strengths and weaknesses. I hope you found this interesting and useful. If you did, please like, share, subscribe, and until next time, get out there and enjoy the outdoors on the cheap.